beat that kind of makes it a little bit more palatable to experience and to think about. And I felt like it was such a fitting song for after everything that was shared about Grace Mission. We didn't, you would think that we planned that, but we didn't. Isn't that how the divine does stuff? I'm just saying, that was amazing. Under pressure. When was the last time that you were under pressure? When was the last time that maybe you were unsettled, interrupted by a disruption to the flow and simple normalcy of your daily routine and carefully constructed plans? Probably just today, this morning, right? Dictionary.com defines disruption as a major disturbance, something that changes your plans or interrupts some event or process that you were in the midst of. Again, we've all been there, whether it's the unexpected phone call in the middle of a busy day or screaming children playing loudly in the jacuzzi, disrupting quiet and peace, or the derailment of goals by unforeseen chaos. I know a little bit about that. But what if these disruptions aren't just inconveniences? What if the sacred is found in the screeching, screaming intrusion that throws off our plans or assumptions? What if that feeling of inconvenience is really an invitation? This reminds me of a story that perhaps you've heard a version of before. Imagine one Sunday morning in a city like this one, but with train subway systems. Picture people on the train sitting quietly, reading, lost in their thoughts. It was peaceful. Until a woman with her children entered the subway car. The children were yelling and throwing things and disturbing the calm of the ride. The woman sat down right next to me and seemed oblivious. She even closed her eyes as if she didn't notice her kids' unruly behavior. Like most people, I felt frustrated. I couldn't understand how she could be so unaware, so insensitive to the impact that her children were having on everyone else. Finally, I turned to her in what I thought was a patient tone and said, "Ma'am, your children are disturbing people. Could you maybe quiet them down a little bit?" Her response took me by surprise. She looked at me as if seeing the situation for the first time and softly said, "Oh, you're right, I guess. I should do something about it. We just came from the hospital where their father died about an hour ago. He committed suicide. I don't know what to think, and I guess they don't know how to handle it either." In that moment, everything shifted. Irritation vanished, replaced immediately by a deep sense of compassion. I saw the situation differently, and because I saw it differently, I felt and acted differently. My heart opened to this woman's unimaginable grief, and my focus shifted from the disruption to the deeper truth underneath it. It wasn't just noise or disturbance. It was an invitation to see again, to respond with grace and love in a moment where I least expected. How many of us have experienced similar disruptions in our lives when you're minding your own business, moving through your day, maybe on your way to work, school, or perhaps taking a much-needed day off when suddenly something unexpected enters your world? Maybe it's something as simple as noise from the construction next door as a result of the recent storm damage. Or maybe it's a chatty person at the grocery store who's holding you up from your next thing, or a long phone call that you initially wished that you didn't answer. Your first instinct might be irritation or impatience. And you might even muster the courage to hold your boundaries that we talk so much about. And you speak up and say, "Excuse me, I need to move on for my day." But just then, the person shares something raw and vulnerable, a tender burden that lies behind the surface of the interruption, and your heart melts. And in that moment, your kindness and attention became exactly what that person needed. This is what I called a holy disruption. It's an interruption, yes, but it's more than that. It is the moment when our divine higher selves invites us to look again, to see beyond the inconvenience and discover the presence of the sacred, not only in the situation, but in ourselves. It is a call to respond with grace, to be the vessel through which compassion flows, and to receive that compassion as well, which in itself may be a disruption to the status quo. Bayo Akomolafe, I'm going to say his name again because he is amazing. If you've never heard of this Nigerian philosopher and author, I should have had his name on the screen for folks who really love intellectually rich dialogue, especially about climate justice and thoughts about changes to this. Bayo Akomolafe. He speaks to this idea about holy disruption and says, disruption, quote, "Disruption is how the world feels into itself, how life feels its own embodiment," end quote. In other words, disruption is not just something that happens to us. It is a part of how life unfolds. Akomolafe says, it is a gift. He goes on to say that we are the gift of disruption. When we encounter moments that upend our assumptions and shake our foundations, we are invited to participate in the divine dance of creation and transformation. We are the ones through whom grace, healing, and love can flow if we choose to look again. Looking again is not always easy. Bearing witness isn't comfortable. In fact, it's often so uncomfortable, but we creative humans, we create songs and stories to help us participate in the dance of transformation, even in the midst of suffering. Consider the lyrics from Queen's Under Pressure. Pressure, pushing down on me, pushing down on you. No man asked for. Pressure that brings a building down, splits a family in two, puts people on the streets. Yeah, we all know that pressure, whether from your own situations or from someone you know. Most of us have encountered pressures of life's disruptions, the things that we didn't see coming, the moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. It's precisely in these moments of pressure, when things seem to break down, that we are invited to see again and to bear witness to the suffering, the tragedy, the grief, and not look away. This is where love shows up. I would love to talk about Cornel West, who talks about love is defined as staying to bear witness, and the way he articulates it, I won't do justice and I don't have time for it, so I will just say, it is said that love in its truest form doesn't shy away from the messiness of life. It doesn't run from disruption, it leans in. It dares to bless the broken, the hurting, the confused, and the chaotic. Love holds space for the discomfort and creates room for healing even when we least expect it. Like Queen says, quote, love dares you to care for the people on the edge of the night, and love dares you to change the way of caring about ourselves. And this idea was powerfully illustrated in the poem Black Jacuzzi by Phoenix. It said, quote, my goals seem to speak for themselves, but y'all hear me talk on it. For I have found the power in my repellency. I said I have found the power in my repellence. In Black Jacuzzi, like the earlier reference story, the children's very presence was the disturbance. They were considered outsiders or repellent. They found strength in the very spaces where they were rejected, and this echoes the idea of holy disruption. What once repelled or unsettled us can become the source of our deepest power and resilience. The poem speaks to the power found in moments of disruption and claiming one's worth despite being pushed aside or ignored. Quote, you can't look at the gold seams of my beautifully broken childhood dreams and deny the power that beams within them, end quote. Just like the Black children in the poem who learned to find their joy and worth in the disruption of societal expectations, we too are invited to embrace our own beautifully broken moments. These disruptions don't just unsettle, they reveal a new layer of divine presence, one that beckons us to recognize the power in our own resilience, the beauty in our brokenness. The divine presence in disruption invites us to let our hearts be moved by the unfolding of life. This kind of love is not sentimental or convenient, but the kind of love that transforms disruption itself into holy ground. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we affirm that revelation is not sealed, that truth is still unfolding, and so are we. We ourselves are a gift of blessed disruption in a society seeking to subdue a love that dares to disrupt. Disruption is a form of revelation too, a moment when life asks us to look again, to expand our understanding and to deepen our capacity for patience and compassion. In these moments, we encounter the divine not as a distant figure, but as the very force that animates life itself, the force that breaks down and rebuilds and challenges and renews. So as I prepare to close, I'm going to leave with asking, well, maybe some might be wondering, how do we live into this invitation? How do we embrace holy disruption in our daily lives? Well, first, I think we can practice more openness. Openness and being willing to see the deeper truths behind the surface interruption. Second, we can continue to cultivate compassion. I see y'all, we here today, so I know that y'all are already working on compassion, and we can continue to deepen it. Recognizing that everyone we meet carries their own burdens and struggles, and we might be the vessel through which the divine touches their lives. My mama used to say, well, she still says all the time, that sometimes we might be the only Jesus that someone sees. And I translate that to me, I might be the only Unitarian Universalist. I might be the only source of divine love that this person ever encounters. In that vein, finally, we can embody presence, showing up fully in each moment, even the ones that feel uncomfortable or disruptive, trusting that the sacred is at work in ways that we cannot always see. Friends, may we dare to bless the holy disruptions in our lives. May we dare to look again when our plans are interrupted, our assumptions are challenged, and our peace is shattered. For it is in these moments that the divine is most present, inviting us to see, to love, and to transform. Amen.